This is Ian Priddy from the Retro Computer Shack. In this video I'll show you how to connect an Amstrad CPC 6128 to a TV or monitor via the HDMI input. To do that you'll require my Amstrad SCART lead and this low cost SCART to HDMI video converter. The Amstrad SCART lead also requires two additional power supplies which I don't supply. So if you don't have the relevant knowledge to supply the power supplies, please don't buy my SCART lead, but instead if you go on eBay, have a look on there, you'll find a seller that can sell you their version of the SCART lead with power supplies as well. So the actual requirements for the CPC 6128 is a 5V power supply, which is the same for the CPC 464 as well. This is 5V DC, 2.4 amp or greater, with a 2.1mm by 5.5mm DC power plug, and the tip is positive. That's a very standard power supply that's easy to source virtually anywhere. The 6128 however requires a 12V power supply as well to power the disk drive, which plugs into the grey curly cable that comes out of the back of the machine. This is non-standard. You require a 12V DC power supply about 1 amp or greater, 2.1mm by 5.5 DC power socket, not a plug, and the tip is negative, not positive, so that's non-standard. The 5V power supply I'd recommend is this one from ProElect. These are not the highest quality or the lowest, they're a good in-between. They're not too expensive and the quality is good. That's the 5V power supply. That one's actually 3 amp, but I prefer to buy power supplies that are over-spec'd a bit. It's a plug top type power supply and easy to obtain. The 12V power supply is this one, again the same brand, 1 amp 12V. However, with that one I've cut the DC power plug off and installed and soldered on a 2.1 by 5.5mm socket and reversed the polarity so the tip is negative, and the power supply is the same model basically as the other one, same design, plug top type, however it's 12V. Will it focus? There you go. 12V 1 amp, which is ample to power the disk drive. Okay, quick bit of information on SCART to HDMI video converters, and then we'll connect everything up. It's not just as simple as buying any SCART to HDMI video converter. It needs to be compatible with RGB signals and with the 15 kHz video signal that most, well actually all retro computers and games consoles output. You'll find lots of SCART to HDMI video converters on the market, but very few will work for this purpose. The low cost one we'll look at in this video is not particularly high quality. There's a little bit of lag, but it only costs about £25–30, and it does the job if you just want to connect one machine to the TV nice and cheaply. There's a slight bit of lag, that's a delay between input and output. Basically, if you press the fire button on your joystick, you may be a slight delay between it actually happening on the screen, although in most cases it's not really noticeable until you get to the faster machines like the Amiga and the ST, and you may see some difference there, but I find it fine for most things. There are 3 main professional, more expensive video converters on the market, which is very popular with the retro computer and gaming industry and enthusiasts. These 3 video converters have been designed specifically for retro computers and game consoles. They have got lots of different settings apart from the RetroTink 2 Time SCART, which I'll explain in a minute. The OSS-C and the RetroTink 5X Pro are much more expensive and professional converters. The quality of the video you get out will be better, and there's lots of different settings you can change to make them compatible with just about everything. The RetroTink 2 Time SCART is a very high quality but simple plug and play SCART in HDMI, no settings, but very, very good quality picture and no lag. So if you want to spend some money and you've got lots more computers and games consoles, you might want to look at investing in these. You'll find more information about these and where to buy them by clicking the links below the video at the when you've watched this, and you'll see a SCART lead troubleshooting guide and also this lead about those HDMI converters and more information about this low cost one. So have a read through those before you buy and then decide. Okay, that's about it from there. So let's connect everything up and get it working. So first we need to make the connections on the computer. So the DIN plug end of the SCART lead, connect the video plug to the monitor socket on the Amstrad. The SCART lead has a pass-through connectors for the power supply. So you put the power supply into the SCART lead socket, power socket, and the Amstrad is powered with the power plug there. The reason for that is that there's no suitable signal on the Amstrad to reliably switch the TV into RGB mode, which is the blanking signal on pin 16. So basically I feed the power in and use that when it's attenuated at the SCART end to produce a suitable voltage for the SCART switching. So this lead should reliably switch into RGB mode, which makes it more compatible with more TVs. So we've got the video connected in, so connect the power plug on the SCART lead into the power sockets on the Amstrad. There's also a sound lead which needs plugging into the stereo output socket on the side there. That sends the sound to the TV, so you'll be able to turn the sound down on the Amstrad. Then you can turn it right off if you want, because the sound will come to the TV. So that's about it from there. We've just got the 5-volt power to put in there. So the 5-volt power supply that I showed you earlier needs to plug into the socket there. And the 12-volt power supply, which I showed you earlier, that's the one with the socket on, not the plug, and the tip is negative, needs to plug into the grey curly cable that comes out of the Amstrad. Right, so that's all connected up. The other end of the SCART lead is the SCART plug, and that needs to go into the SCART input on the converter. I can't find it, there we go, got it. So SCART plug into the SCART input on the video converter. We then need to connect a HDMI video cable, which looks like that if you're not familiar with HDMI. Connect one end to the HDMI input on the TV or monitor. This one's already connected. Connect the other end to the HDMI video output on the converter. And then we need to connect the power to the converter, which goes in at the side of the SCART plug there. And then we're going to switch the TV on, select the HDMI input, which on this monitor is just a button on the front. And we'll bring that up a bit so you can see the screen. I've just switched the Amstrad on because the video monitor won't focus if it sees a black screen, so I've already switched that on. You'll notice that the status box, oh, it's just popped off. Let me just switch that back on again and I'll show you that status box. I've just switched the converter on and off just so we can see that status box, which should come on in a second. There we go. That status box is output by the video converter. As you can see at the moment, it's showing SCART, which is the SCART input, and also it's showing an output of at 19.2 by 1080p, which is 1080p HD, full HD basically, which is what this monitor is, so that's the best for my monitor. If you don't see the SCART and it shows HDMI on the input, I'll just press that button and you can see it switches to HDMI. However, we want the SCART input, so press that again. You'll see it change the SCART and then it selects the SCART input on the video converter. You may also need to go through pressing the 720 1080p. That basically just sets the output resolution, and you'll need to change that to match your monitor. Mine's 1080p, but if yours is not, it might be 780p or somewhere in between. Then press that until you get the best picture on your monitor. The other thing to check, let me just switch that light out again, is the aspect ratio of the monitor or TV. Mine's already set for 4:3. All the Amstrads, all the retro computers actually, without exception, all output a 4.3 aspect ratio picture. So you can actually switch it into 16:9. It will work, but you just get an unusually stretched screen, which some people prefer, but personally I prefer to keep it in the way that it was intended. Also in widescreen you may miss a bit of the screen because it tends to go off a little bit. Right, so that's come on okay. We'll just run a program up and you can get an idea of the picture. I'll just switch this other light out so you can see that better. Drop the light on that blind and that's the kind of picture you should get. It should be nice and clear. I'll just bring that out a little bit. It should be nice and clear, full colour obviously, and a very steady picture. You'll also get sound coming from the monitor. You may be able to hear that, I'm not sure, but so that's basically it for this one. I hope you find that useful. If you want any more information, click the links at the bottom of the video and you'll find links to the SCART lead, the video converters, troubleshooting guide and everything relevant to this video. So thanks for watching, and that's it from me now. I'll be back again. Thanks, bye.